Hello, welcome back to Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley on YouTube. This is Pastor Gervais Charmley, and I'm here in this magnificent little Shropshire church, the Church of St. John the Baptist, Kenley. It's often overlooked and has been actually done down by none other than Pevsner himself in his Buildings of England. But I like it. It's little, it's humble, it has a wonderful 17th century pulpit. And it's a good example of the sort of little buildings that you get here in the Shropshire Hills, where the local parish, local people aren't very rich. There's no grand house in the parish. There's no one with tons of money to build a magnificent structure. So what you get is a good, simple building. This is the medieval equivalent, because this is medieval. It's the medieval equivalent of your village Bethel in the 19th century. It's a church that's built as simply as possible to simply provide for the church, for the local people, a place of worship. So let's explore this tiny little building together. St. John the Baptist, Kenley, as I say, is one of the smaller type of medieval churches. And thinking about it, it's not so much that it is tiny, in that it's quite narrow and has quite, as you can see, a low roof. But it is a small building. The font is 19th century Victorian, and it's a small one. And you can see why. It's a small building. A big imitation medieval font just wouldn't work. This single seat here would be for the church warden, who would have to, I think, be quite slender to get in there, but he's there to monitor people coming in through the lovely big square 17th century, I believe, door. And you can see on the door the lock is housed within a hollowed out piece of timber, which was quite common in those days. But some of the clergy here clearly been quite distinguished here in memory of Henry Raper Slade, D.D., for 15 years incumbent of this parish, who died February the 4th, 1868, aged 62 years. Now, D.D., he proceeded to a doctorate in divinity. Now, whether it's an earned doctorate or an honorary one, it's still significant, because you don't get an honorary doctorate. You certainly didn't then get an honorary D.D. from one of the universities in this country for nothing. And on the other side, you have here the parish clerk, former parish clerk, in memory of James Daniel, formerly of the Leesal's Farm, and parish clerk of Kenley, who died 24th day of May 1813, aged 42 years, and Elizabeth, his wife, daughter of Thomas and Ermine Cotton of Bleakaway Farm in this county, who died 20th day of October 1810, aged 40 years. Also three of their children, Hannah, Margaret and Dinah, who died in infancy. And what you see here is the other important person in a little church like this, the parish clerk. Here is the pulpit, and this can only ever have been a two-decker. There's no indication there was ever enough room. I suppose there might have been if it had been carried up higher, but it doesn't look like it ever was. And here, on the other side, there would have been the parish clerk who led the responses. But you can see that pulpit. This is a magnificent piece of 17th century work. This is the sort of thing that you can picture one of the Puritans, again Richard Baxter locally, preaching from. I doubt he ever preached here. We are in this rather remote part of the Shropshire Hills. You see here there's a slight distinction between nave and chancel, and you've got this very nice timber work here, but the pulpit is the primary treasure here, with its tester, full tester, and its carved woodwork, and there's the desk. It clearly has been altered in the 19th century slightly, and again that's fine. And the organist's seat with his little rest there, and can't see. I suspect it's a two-manual at best. It does have a pedal board. The pipes in the front, of course, are decorative. The real pipes are behind them. East window is very simple. We have John the Baptist, of course, The same came to bear witness of the light, and then the other side is a copy of that famous Holman Hunt painting. Well, it's not a copy, it's an imitation of the Holman Hunt painting, because there's sufficient alteration has been made, but still he's referencing Holman Hunt, I am the light of the world. And here we have, in memory, it's a lovely memorial here, in memory of the Reverend Archibald Allison, author of Essays on Taste and Sermons on Various Subjects, incumbent of this parish for many years, and of Dorothea Gregory his wife. They were beloved and reverenced in life, and their memory is still honoured among the people of Kenley. Their children arise and call them blessed. 1863. And here we have a rather wonderful chair here. Now, there's an inscription on it. Can we see what it says? In memory of Edward Richard Roberts, 1921 to 1990, formerly church warden of St John the Baptist, Kenley. So this is a chair that has been, it's not a 1990 chair, is it? But it's a chair that's belonged to him, that's been given to the church at his death. The communion table is a table type. There we are, clear plain glass window. The only stained glass is the east window, quite common. The other chair in the chancel. The chancel arrangements are quite Victorian. The pews have clearly all been replaced in the 19th century, again with these very simple pews, because this is a very simple building. This is a very, this has never been a rich parish, basically. It's always been a small parish, scattered houses among the hills here. There is a war memorial, unlike the nearby parish of Harley. You did have folk go out to the war to die. And there is a tower. It's only a small tower. We'll see it when we get outside. The base of the tower now is the kitchen, which of course is not open. And fair enough. And here we look out again. So we'll go outside and have a look at the exterior of this very simple, very plain building with its magnificent pulpit, which, as I say, is the chief, certainly as far as I'm concerned, is the chief treasure of this building, is the pulpit. But the building itself is quite interesting, so let's have a look around the outside. We'll actually start the outside in the porch with the magnificent studded, I think 17th century door. There was a major restoration project here done in 2015-16, and that's the memorial to it. That's the commemorative stone, reopened on the 2nd of October. I remember the first time I tried to visit Kenley, it was during the restoration scheme, and it was all closed because they were doing the restoration. So let's proceed in this direction. There's a quite interesting memorial here that we'll start with, and this is First World War, Lieutenant Corporal Edward Roberts, Shropshire Yeomanry, killed in action in France, September the 27th, 1918, while serving with the 15th Battalion Royal Warwickshire Regiment. Greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. It's a respectful memorial. Of course, there can be no glorification of war in that sense, but the Roberts is an important family here. Now, here we are, the outside of the building now, and you can see the tower. It's a little stump tower. It's not a bell tower. The windows are 19th century. I suspect that there were square windows, and you can see the outline of the square windows, where the current rounded wide tracery windows are in place. So here is St John the Baptist, Kenley. You've got these massive yew trees, which are an indication of how old the church is and how this is an ancient, historic ecclesiastical site. Again, you see how long the building is. No, there is apparently no visible anyway distinction between nave and chancel, which doesn't surprise me, the building this simple. Quite possibly the tower, which doesn't look like a bell tower, the upper section in the Middle Ages would have been where the priest lived, because we're talking about a celibate man after all. a man with few needs. You didn't have the big libraries that clergy have today, says he, speaking from experience. But we have a wonderful view from up here because we are high on a ridge in the Shropshire Hills, and we can see for miles all the way, and Wales is in that direction. Black sheep in the field, the little old church, much loved, clearly. Again, people ask, what's the preaching like? I've got no idea, because of course one visits these things on a weekday, and I suspect it's like as things were. Here we are, look at those sheep with their horns. And this, of course, is quite normal and quite authentic for the Middle Ages. You'd have had these various types of local sheep breeds, and surround the tower. It does look very much, as I say, you've got a sort of vestry in the base, which is understandable, and it does look as if, quite probably the Middle Ages, you'd have the priest living in there, which is one way to save on connection. Here we see the rough masonry of the north wall, and there's where the north door used to be, cut into now by a window opening, which shows that the windows are, that certainly that window is much later than the north wall, and if there was a window there, it would have been a much smaller one. The other window opening is pointed, but also the opening behind it shows that it was squared off at one point. So there we are, St John the Baptist, Kenley. Once again, admire the view from up here, because you can see for miles. This is a church, it's on a ridge that gives a wonderful view, and back in the days when relations with the Welsh were not so good as they are now, you might have marauding Welshmen coming over the hills, and of course this way we're looking into England and across the plain in the general direction of Shrewsbury, and you can see for miles and miles and miles. It's a splendid location, and that's the other thing about St John the Baptist. A simple building in a splendid location. You can see there's been worship here for hundreds and hundreds of years. So there we are, St John the Baptist, Kenley. As we go this way towards the chancel, we can see the opening of another former door. There was a door here which has been blocked up, so that now the only door is the south door. The north side, you can see, is actually quite exposed, which is why historically I doubt there were very many windows in it, because in the winter you'd have all the wind and the snow and the rain blowing across the valley and up here. And so we come back into the graveyard on the south side. You see the yew trees that provide some cover on the south side, and so there we are. We have finished the perambulation around the outside of the building. So St John the Baptist, Kenley, small, ancient, simple. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy these videos. I certainly enjoy making them, and I shall continue to make them. I know that every so often issues appear. Part of the problem is, of course, that if I make half a dozen videos, I can't correct anything in the half dozen I've made, because going back to shoot them in these places, it's possible, but there we are. Anyway, enough complaints from me. Which leaves with St John the Baptist, Kenley, a little house of worship high on a hill in Shropshire. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you.